Hello, I'm Steve McNeil. We are at the Centre for Computing History here in Cambridge. It's an incredible place. If you've not been before, come and check it out. They've got all these machines downstairs, pretty much every computer, and as you can see behind me, almost every game. They've got Zool there, we've got SNESes, there's a Game Gear there with a TV tuner in it. Obviously you can't use that anymore because we've gone digital. But we're going to have a nosy around, check out all the great stuff, and hopefully get to meet the Oliver twins as well, video game relations. So let's see if we can find them.
We've got computers from the 60s, 70s, the 80s, some consoles from the 90s. Most of the old games still playable, a few arcade machines, and a real feeling of retro history here is quite fantastic. It's very unique to Cambridge. I've not seen one like this anywhere else. I'm here today for the launch of the Oliver Twins history book and also to find out what the Oliver Twins have in store next, which rumours have it may be a new Dizzy game. We'll see.
You can tell how much people love these guys' stuff because that's 20. I mean, that one's cracked. That's a bad example. Let's pick a better one. That one. That's not broken. That is probably 25 years old, and it looks brand new. People really, really love these things.
The Dizzy games taught me lateral thinking. They taught me how to solve puzzles. They taught me how to think outside the box, and I'd have been a different person without them.
I had that. Oh man, yeah, incredible. Let's see if we can track them down. So I've tracked them down. I am here with the Oliver twins, or Philip and Andrew.
Yes, that's correct.
As we know them. Thank you very much. So I obviously know you from my youth playing your classic games, but for anybody who maybe doesn't know much about you guys, who are you and why are we here talking to you?
We're known as the Oliver Twins, and we've written a lot of games. Started in the mid-80s writing 8-bit games, which I'd like to say have become classics, and written games ever since and had a wonderful career writing video games.
And still making games today as well.
Absolutely. So this is now 30 years of making video games. In the 80s, it was the 8-bit machines, the Spectrum, the Amstrad, Commodore 64, then it grew up through the consoles, the NES and PlayStation and all that. And now we're doing a game called Sky Saga on the PC.
Great game. I've had a chance to play an early build of it, and it's a wonderful game worth checking out. Why are we here? What's going on?
So we're at the History of Computing in Cambridge, and we've just done the Dizzy reveal, Wonderland Dizzy.
Incredible. Yes, you had a wonderful thing. It was the room was packed with loads of very passionate Dizzy fans.
It was awesome.
We'd promised there was something interesting for Dizzy, and we know that the Dizzy fans have always said, bring back another Dizzy game, and they've said, sort of, wouldn't it be great if the Olivers wrote another Dizzy game? And actually,
we're quite busy.
The Olivers have written another Dizzy game, in fact.
Yeah, but you were so good at planning that you had the foresight to write it 22 years ago and then hide it in your roof.
Yeah, so it wasn't
not deliberately,
but it is a classic 8-bit game because that's what we wrote back in 93.
It's an unreleased NES game.
Unreleased NES.
Yeah, great, amazing. And so for anybody who's watching who maybe wants to have a go on it, where can they play the game?
WonderlandDizzy.com.
Completely free.
And it's in a browser.
Just run. How easy is that?
And if you weren't there in the old days because you weren't born, you can see what your parents used to play.
See what you missed. Why have you chosen this location? Why are we specifically here?
The History of Computing Museum in Cambridge is just an absolutely awesome place.
We were asked to do a talk here at the museum. We vaguely knew about it. We hadn't had a chance to come here. Did a talk and thought, this place is amazing. It's like if you grew up with the old games and the classics and you want to know the history of video games, it's all here.
They've got all this in this building.
Literally,
this is the mecca of video games.
It is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it is a birthplace of games in the UK.
Yep.
And actually,
Cambridge sort of is the birthplace because of things like the Sinclair Spectrum and
Acorn as well, obviously, who were the people behind the BBC, who have then gone on to become ARM, who power a lot of the world's computing and smartphones.
Yeah, the chips are in all our phones. So obviously you guys have been working in the industry for a long time now. Presumably you've seen things change a lot over the years.
Absolutely. I mean, in the old days, it was literally back bedroom coding, that sort of expression, because it was guys like us writing games in our bedrooms.
Literally in your bedroom?
Literally in his bedroom.
Bigger room, I believe.
And then publishing games on cassette tapes and then moving up to discs and floppy disks and
then
CDs.
Up to
CDs and cartridges and various other
So some of the
medium.
changes that have happened is that the technology was very restrictive, so you had to be very, very technical about what your design and creation was. But then as the computers have got more powerful and more memory, so the designers and the art is much more important as sort of, okay, how are you going to use this technology? But also so the team sizes started to grow. And the minute you're starting to save your games onto CDs and DVDs, the memory is vast, which means you need a huge team as well. But with the advent of smartphones, there is also kind of a resurgence of that kind of back bedroom and the small
We've got the indie gaming
operations.
thing.
Well, because the
through
teams
again
got
with-
really big, there were obviously everyone's got to pay wages and lots of risk and stuff. So people ended up going into sequels. So a lot of console games they got bigger and bigger, and they become sequels because it was safer. Whereas actually, it was really nice to see that when the smartphones came out, there was a resurgence of indie games because people said, well, people expecting little games, quite often 2D games, and actually you can write those with. You could write it with one person, but certainly small teams because it wasn't too much investment, and you can make nice little hooky games, which will almost sometimes hark back to the old days. And one of the other things is sort of when you finish a game, and in the old days it was like getting a computer to do pretty much anything which you could resemble a game was one thing, but you'd always run out of memory really quick, and you just go, well, filled the memory, can't do much more,
Finish.
ship it. Literally. And obviously as memory sort of got up, it was like, how much can you refine it? And generally it was when the money runs out or Christmas comes around, it's like, ship it, you've got to kind of get it out there. But nowadays with digital distribution, it's changed that because you can just keep sort of updating and modifying. So you've got a core idea, you can get it out, which is really cool, but then if your core idea grasps the imagination of the players and they start playing it, then the original authors can go back and go, I'm going to keep improving. So we don't need to do sequels nowadays. You just make what you've got bigger and better and continuous.
Yeah. So in terms of you're talking about originally it was just you guys, and then you started to employ more and more people on the games that you made. What's the pool of talent like in the country? Are there a lot of people out there now doing this? Or?
It is very, very good that computers are sort of well recognised by universities and educational authorities. It's absolutely amazing that the computer science is back on the national curriculum at GCSE level. Awesome. But the problem is that every industry now needs programmers because computer programming and IT hasn't just touched the video games industry, it's touched every industry. In fact, it's completely changing every industry. So the demand for people who have those talents has just skyrocketed. So actually, it's very difficult to find the people with the talents you need, not because there aren't a lot of people out there, it's because there aren't enough, because so many people need
There's a lot of
those
other
skills.
jobs they could be doing.
But there's
so
a very interesting thing in the fact that in the 80s, when computers started coming out in the UK, it was all the hobbyists were jumping on and writing all these video games and sort of growing up with them as being teenagers. And this country got an awful lot of programmers and creativity and originality. And then when the Americans came in and started producing sort of bigger games and the console games, we did see in this country a bit of a brain drain. And there are a lot of very, very good British programmers went all across to America. And actually, I haven't seen too much of that going on recently, which is actually quite nice. It's people are sort of saying, no, I don't need to move to America to make video games now. I can do that in this country. And then we're seeing a resurgence. And some of the very big games that people don't appreciate are actually made in this country.
So, I mean, it's been incredibly exciting to be here at the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge, because you're seeing, like, I've seen like 5-year-olds playing on old Amstrads and Spectrums and getting stuck into the nuts and bolts. So there is a passion in the younger generation for this sort of stuff. But
Well,
is there
certainly-
more we could be doing? to
Certainly,
help
we
get them?
need to sort of give them that passion. And video games are accepted entertainment medium. I'd say the best entertainment medium, obviously, and certainly the best one of the future. We need to inspire the young people to actually learn the skills that are required, because playing a game and making a game are two completely different things. I think we need to sort of really inspire and enthuse the next generation to learn those skills.
I mean, one of the good things is that I think it's generally quite well respected in this country. I think all the teachers and even the politicians, actually, they've sort of grown up sometimes with our games, and they kind of respect that actually games are quite cool, and actually if you learn programming from a young age, you're going to get a job pretty damn easily.
Yeah.
It may not be in video games, but it is definitely a very worthy skill to know how computers work, because you will be surrounded by them forever, and understanding that will probably get you a job.
I mean, that is the important thing to know, is that if you're a teacher or a parent or something, that if you inspire a kid to want to join the games industry, and they go and learn all those skills. Even if they never end up in the games industry, those skills are required by every industry in the future.
The
So
interesting-
they won't be out of work.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, there was a time when the schools kind of poo-pooed games and it's just a frivolous entertainment.
That's not
or
what
whatever.
computers are for.
But yeah, but that,
Yeah.
that
We had
doesn't-
that.
Yeah, we had that a bit, but it isn't now in this country. I think everyone sees it and respects it as a really brilliant thing, which actually is different because there are countries around the world, even now, that just don't do education in schools and things, and frankly I think they should, because it's a way to get kids inspired by something that means something to them, because all kids like games, but it's like, well, wouldn't you like to know how it works?
Yeah, and I think the proliferation of things like smartphones and tablets, that sort of, because when I was at school, computers were things that there were people called secretaries who had computers at work sometimes to type things.
Not very inspiring.
But also no one else had to use a computer, whereas now everybody, even kids, 10-year-olds, have got
Yeah.
a smartphone in their
Not only
pocket,
has
so-
to, wants to, and you try taking one off somebody.
Yeah, that is a punishment to not be allowed near your.
Exactly.
And if you want to show off to your friends, you kind of use your shelf on your phone. What better thing to actually write something or get your phone to do something yourself?
Okay, guys, look, well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you
you.
for giving us your time. Obviously, for anybody watching as well, do make sure you come and visit the Centre for Computing History here in Cambridge. It's an incredible building. But for now, guys, thank you for your time. Hopefully, see you again soon.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks.